What the Got no steel industry left, can't educate our young people, can't get health care to our old people, but we can bomb the out of your country, all right? Huh? We can bomb the out of your country, all right? Especially if your country is full of brown people. Oh, we like that, don't we? That's our hobby. That's our new job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country. Tell them to watch the out, or we'll goddamn bomb them. Well, when's the last white people you can remember that we bombed? Can you remember the last white? Can you remember any white people we've ever bombed? The Germans, those are the only ones, and that's only because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bullshit, that's our fucking job. That's our fucking job. Now we only bomb brown people. Not because they're trying to cut in on our action, just because they're brown. Now you probably noticed I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. You see, I tell you, my mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do, it's called thinking. And I'm not a very good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing. Zero. Nope. And I don't take very seriously the media or the press in this country, who in the case of the Persian Gulf War were nothing more than unpaid employees of the Department of Defense, and who most of the time function as kind of an unofficial public relations agency for the United States government.
I'm going to pause it right there. Is he saying anything untrue there, Jack? Mm-mm. Not at all. Let's continue.
So I don't listen to them. I don't really believe in my country. And I got to tell you, folks, I don't get all choked up about yellow ribbons and American flags. I consider them to be symbols, and I leave symbols to the symbol-minded. Me, I look at war a little bit differently. To me, war is a lot of prick-waving, okay? Simple thing, that's all it is. War is a whole lot of men standing out in the field waving their pricks at one another. Men are insecure about the size of their dicks, and so they have to kill one another over the idea. That's what all that whole jock bullshit is all about. That's what all that adolescent macho male posturing and strutting in bars and locker rooms is all about. It's called fear. Men are terrified that their pricks are inadequate, and so they have to compete with one another to feel better about themselves. And since war is the ultimate competition, basically men are killing each other in order to improve their self-esteem. You don't have to be a historian or a political scientist to see the bigger foreign policy theory at work. It sounds like this. What? They have bigger dicks? Bomb them! And, of course, the bombs and the rockets and the bullets are all shaped like dicks. It's a subconscious need to project the penis into other people's affairs. It's called f***ing with people.
Yeah, I think we've proved our point here. It's funny, and you mentioned to me before we started recording this morning that you found a research, and I'm finding several news organizations have picked up on this. WKYT Television out of Kentucky, RT, Russian TV. Dodgeball is a tool of oppression. Do you have this?
Yeah, I've got the story. You know, we are absolutely applauding Carlin before we go to the dodgeball, which is really just an extrapolation of what he was saying, right?
Yeah.
When he said to the Germans, we said to the Germans, hey, you're not going to rule the world. You're not going to control the world. That's our job. Well, that's been our job since World War II. We have 800 military bases, Darren, around the world. 800 military bases. The bases themselves, this isn't the military budget, just those 800 bases cost $100 billion annually. I'm reading from Vox magazine. Why does the U.S. have 800 military bases around the world, by John Harris? We have 800 military bases in other countries which cost $100 billion annually, a number that was actually higher if you count the bases that are still working in Iraq and Afghanistan. We are the imperial power that is sitting on the face of the United States. And whether you want to call it Petus envy or whether you want to call it just male dominance, it starts in the 8th grade, according to these researchers. It starts when you get on the team that's got the biggest guys and they just beat the crap out of the people 50 feet away on the other side of the wall. I've seen it. I was part of it.
I've got the story. This is Jordan Smith at WKYT Television, and also cites Gray News. A lot comes to mind when thinking of dodgeball. Just to be clear, this is not referencing the 2004 Ben Stiller comedy of the same name. This is about the game often played in North American schools that involves hurling an inflated rubber ball at an opponent in hopes of eliminating them. Maybe you feel a sense of nostalgia. Then you're probably among those who miss the thrill of charging the line just to get first dibs at a ball. Perhaps you're one of the people who scurried to the back in hopes that a ball wouldn't find you. Whether you were going for headshots, giving your opponent fits with your agility, or just hiding behind a crowd, you took part in what a group of university professors in Canada call a tool of oppression that teaches kids to dehumanize their peers. So the Republicans and the conservatives can blame Canada for this one, right? Is that what we're getting at here? University of British Columbia professor Joy Butler told the Washington Post, quote, "When you're setting up the environment for students to learn and you introduce the idea that it's okay to slam the ball at whomever you like, even if it is with a soft ball, the intention is there." End of quote. Researchers interviewed middle schoolers about physical education, but noticed a recurring theme. The students hated dodgeball. When they were asked why, they plotted the responses against Iris Marion's 1999 article, 5 Faces of Oppression. Those faces are exploitation, marginalization, powerlessness, cultural imperialism, and violence. The study found the more athletic students often dictated the rules of engagement without input from the students with less ability. They picked teams that allowed them to gang up on other students. Butler asked, quote, "I think of the little girl who is running to the back to avoid being targeted. What is she learning in that class? Avoidance?" End of quote. To combat this, researchers asked a class to create a completely new game involving just one ball and 2 goals. The entire class had to agree to the rules. The students could have chosen games like basketball or soccer. Instead, the more athletic students splintered into a group of their own and developed a game without the rest of the class. Butler explained, quote, "The message is that it's okay to hurt or dehumanize the other. The competition is about annihilating one's opponent, and the true definition of competition is between 2 evenly matched teams. Well, kids stack their teams, and they really enjoy beating the other team. What's the enjoyment of that?" End of quote. Researchers presented their findings to the Congress of Humanities and Social Sciences. They plan to publish them in an edition of the European Physical Education Review. So there it is.
This strikes close to home. My first teaching assignment was at Stockbridge High School down in, just south of M52, close to where I went to high school. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the I had a split assignment, half English literature and half PE. So my first hour, the already PE teacher took me into his office and said, hey, listen, you've got a first hour class, piece of cake. You roll those dodgeballs out. You see them in the closet there. You roll those out in the middle of the floor. You don't even have to pick teams. They got their teams already picked up. And you could sit here in this office and you can just let 45 minutes go by and get your prep done for the rest of the classes. I said, you're kidding. No. He says, that's all you got to do.
Wow.
The very first day, I was amazed at the noise when those balls hit the side of the wall. The office was right next to the gym.
Man, they go for blood when they throw those, don't they?
Well, see, the rule is you weren't supposed to go across the midline, right?
Yeah.
But if you weren't looking, they'd run right down 5 feet from their opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And a headshot, that was the only shot you took, was a headshot. And excuse me for saying this, I'm repeating what I heard that day, but the band geeks, their only protection was to huddle together like a bunch of quail. So they have 4 or 5 together, instead of being isolated. And so they usually no. It was absolutely aggressive, and it started the day for these poor kids going to the second hour class with big red welts all over the body, shirts and skins. Now later on, I don't want to sound like I realized in full how damaging it was. I quickly replaced it with some other things, and they hated it. Like, let's take volleyball with a net. No, they wanted to play dodgeball. They wanted to play dodgeball. The article you quoted by Butler, Darren,
yeah.
I had that on my sheet for today, gives clear indication that the willingness to subjugate the weaker to your will is the foundation for imperialism. So when Carlin's talking about, or I mentioned the fact we have 800 bases around the world, and we pretty much dominate these weaker nations, how is that any different than the equation down to that first hour PE class, where all the guys that were the biggest gathered together and just thumped the weaker? And it was the greatest part of their day.
Because I'm a winner. That sounds like? That sounds like conservatives. I'm a winner. I vote Republican because I'm a winner.
Then they go to Sunday school, right, these same conservatives, and read the good book that says that the weak shall inherit the earth. They ain't going to inherit anything down at Stockbridge because they just got any confidence they had in the first part of the school. They knocked right out of them like pudding.
Yeah.
But the conservative Bible says, hey, the meek, is the meek and the weak or both?
Only the strong shall survive.
Yeah, that's what their good book says. But their life says, we got ours. We're not worried about you. It's Darwinism. It's the strong consuming the weak.
And you've already got conservatives that are coming out writing pieces in support of dodgeball, like this idiot Larry Alex Taunton, who published an opinion piece for USA Today. He is a freelance columnist who contributes to the American Spectre, right there. You might as well call that a Nazi publication. Fox Propaganda Channel. Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, they're called snowflakes. This person, this conservative comes out. Listen to this. Now, those libs, they got their own snowflake researchers. This is from researchers say dodgeball is oppressive. This is from Elephant Address. And this conservative says that we have, us snowflakes, have our own researchers. So this snowflake researcher says that dodgeball is oppressive and dehumanizes people. Okay? But this person goes on, I'm going to paraphrase, he played as a child.
Where is this coming from?
This is from an article called Elephant Address. Researchers say dodgeball is oppressive and dehumanizes poor snowflakes. Posted by Tom Brackett, June 10th. He goes on.
Yeah.
That says
boy.
He never, ever felt dehumanized. Of course, he adds, I was huge, and I was big for my size, but I sucked at dodgeball. Okay, so yeah. I guess that takes care of it. That undoes all the scientific research by Butler, by this one huge conservative that says we have our own snowflake researcher.
Oh,
that's what
brother.
we need. And you go to psychologists or psychiatrists. You could have snowflake psychology, right? Categorize it. Mm-hmm. You want to be analyzed by a snowflake? You're a liberal. Put that. You got DDS. You got all these prefixes in front of your name.
Yeah.
Add snowflake.
Yeah. There you go. I tell you what, though, the kids aren't having any more of the adults' crap, and we've got a couple of examples of that right now. This is a story, Jack, you pointed this one out to me. This is by John Wisely, writing for the Detroit Free Press.